when I stop drinking, when I take breaks from drinking, consistency is not even something I have to think about. It's just who I am. Welcome back to the Brand With You podcast with me, Robyn Savage. So today we're going to be talking about my complicated relationship with alcohol and how it's impacted my brand and business. If you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been on a Sober Curious journey for almost 2 years, and it's been a really interesting ride for me. So today I wanted to connect with you, have conversation about a topic that maybe feels a little bit taboo or weird to be talking about with a brand strategist. But as you know, the brand is you. And so everything you consume, every decision you make, every habit that is ingrained in the fabric of who you are genuinely changes and impacts the work that you do in the world. And alcohol is one of those things, right? Alcohol is one of those habits that a lot of us don't even question or think about. Alcohol is something that takes us into a different state of consciousness. It's a social habit, it's a personal habit. It is what it is, and it's different for all of us, but it can impact the way that we show up. And so I wanted to share with you some of my own personal story and some of the experiences that I've had since just getting curious about alcohol. Now, I'll give you a really high level overview of what this has looked like for me. I've quit drinking for months and months and months at a time, and then I've dabbled with it, putting restrictions around it and moderating and really only kind of interacting or consuming alcohol very minimally at really intentional times. And then I've gone back to just like, let's just see what happens if we just let ourselves choose and let it flow, you know, go with the flow. So I've been kind of like on this spectrum of like, you know, full sobriety, and then on this other side of the kind of pendulum of just like, I'm a yes woman, whatever goes. And so what I've noticed, because I've been sort of in this experiment for so long, is that, I've noticed some consistencies and some things that show up and really change when I stop drinking or when I'm taking a break from alcohol, and then things that shift when I am drinking or am casually consuming, okay? So I think, first of all, it's really important, like if we need help on our journey to quit drinking, if you are someone and who this conversation is really triggering for, then I see you. Alcohol is not an easy choice for a lot of people. It's one of those relationships that has a lot kind of entangled with it. So I do just want to say, if this conversation does trigger you, or if you do recognize in this episode or conversation that maybe you do need support and help, I highly encourage you to go find that. Go speak to someone, go get the support that you need, because we all deserve optimal health and freedom. And I know that alcohol is not such an easy, simple choice or just experiment for some people. So I see you, and you deserve the help that you need. So go give that to yourself if this conversation feels like maybe it brings something to light for you, okay? So some of the really interesting things that I notice in all of the times that I take breaks from alcohol, and I've got a little list here, so I'll refer to this list a couple of times just to keep myself on track. But the number one thing is clarity and purpose. Okay, clarity and purpose. And what I mean by that is, like, I always know who my soul client is. I always know what I'm doing. I have a really clear foundation for my brand and business. I know what's up. I've got a business model. I've got a team. Like, we're doing it, people, you know? But what happens when I stop drinking is this clarity and purpose starts to show up, where I know every single day that there's a bigger reason, there's a bigger energy, there's a bigger force behind my work than just me. So my connection to my creativity, my connection to my message, my connection to my work, my connection to my dreams and my vision gets so crystal clear whenever I'm not drinking that it actually becomes harder for myself to separate from my work. And I actually think this is really interesting because if you think about the way that a lot of people use alcohol, it's like, oh, 5 o'clock, time to check out, gonna have a glass of wine. Well, when you take that glass of wine away and there's no cue or trigger for your mind to separate yourself from your work, I actually found that without drinking, I was kind of constantly in this creative vibration where like an idea could come through at any moment, or I could have a download for a podcast or an offer at any moment, because I was never actually cueing myself, cueing my body, or cueing my brain to check out. So this clarity in my purpose just became so magnified and amplified, and I mean, my creative inner networks were just like off the charts. So clarity is number one. Secondly, consistency. Hello. Okay, when you aren't interfering with your own creative channels, when you aren't interfering with your mission or your message, when you aren't unplugging from clarity, when you are so in the zone, consistency becomes a lot freaking easier, right? You don't wake up tired, you don't wake up with brain fog, you don't wake up thinking about last night or wondering why the fuck you drank again when you said you weren't going to. Like the mental chatter is reduced so much that the clarity in your message and your ability to just show up for that becomes a whole lot easier. So when I stopped drinking, when I take breaks from drinking, consistency is not even something I have to think about. It's just who I am. Okay, now that's a huge bonus for a lot of people. And I know so many of my students, so many of my clients straight up say that consistency is one of their biggest challenges. So checking in with your habits, your behaviors, your consumption of all things, even social media, conversations, friendships, right? Your consumption of anything is going to change your state, change your mood, and that is going to directly impact your ability to be consistent. So that was something that I noticed for sure. Another thing I notice every single time I take extended breaks from drinking is my commitment and devotion to ritual. Okay, so every day I pull tarot cards, every day I write in a journal, every day I try to move my body, and every day I try and get outside. Now, those are 4 things, and honestly, half the time I'm lucky if I get to do 2 of them, but I'm always trying my best to give myself each one of those medicines in a day. And when I'm not drinking, it's pretty amazing how much more ritual there is in my life. Okay, I wake up earlier. I have the energy in the morning to move my body before the sun rises. I'm like deeply connected to my spiritual practice. There's time for it. There's energy for it. And my ritual, my sense of ritual just gets so much deeper when I cut alcohol out of my life. Next thing is, and I don't know if you struggle with this, but this has been a real kind of challenge for me over the years, because I'm so feminine and so creative and so ADHD and all over the place, so Manny-Gen in human design. Sometimes I have a hard time completing a task or doing what I say I'm going to do. When alcohol is not in the picture, I am like 98% more certain that shit's gonna get done and that I'm gonna actually follow through and fulfill my commitments. I don't think I even need to say much more on this topic, because honestly, being someone who does what they say they're gonna do is such a huge, liberating, good, elevated frequency and feeling to live in. Like knowing who you are and trusting yourself is just so huge. So that was just a big one for me. Highlight that one. Next, this leads into the next point that I had written down to kind of chat about, is pride, right? I started to feel this sense of pride in myself, like, oh my gosh, I'm doing the thing. I am taking care of myself. I'm deeply devoted to ritual. I'm saying I'm not going to drink and then I'm not drinking. I'm like taking this time and this season of my life to be really, really present and to be connected and to stay clear on my purpose and to really plug into it and to keep my creative channels clean. That felt really good for me. And every single time I've taken a break, it's brought in this feeling and this sensation of just pride, expanded pride, like roll your shoulders back, you know, you hold your head up taller, your posture changes. And then this brings an air of confidence into my work. Okay. So if I feel proud of myself for making this hard decision, if I feel proud of myself for staying committed to something, then I bring this level and layer of confidence into my work that shows, right? That is palpable. Like when you feel confident in yourself, when you feel good about who you are, you can't not show up differently for the work that you're doing in this world. So that's my list. But I want to add a couple of things to this conversation. I have not yet quit drinking once and for all. And I don't really know what that relationship is going to end up looking like for me. So I am definitely not preaching, full forever, a life of sobriety. To be honest, I'm not even sure where I'm landing with that. And that's why I'm in experimentation mode. But a lot of people won't ever even allow themselves to experiment. So one thing that I wanted to say is allow yourself to get curious about this relationship. I do not believe that there is a right or wrong. I don't believe that there's a good or bad. And I don't believe that this is a black and white, conversation. I think that you need to find what feels best for you and what genuinely works for you, for your lifestyle, for your brand, for your vision, for your family, for all of it. And allow yourself to really, really try things on. Really, really get uncomfortable and then get a little bit more comfortable and then test this and then try that and then say yes to this and then say absolutely not to that. And if you approach your relationship with alcohol with this sense of curiosity rather than oh, I'm sober or I'm not sober. I'm a drunk or I'm not a drunk. I'm committed forever or I'm not committed at all. These absolutes can prevent you from playing around in the middle area to find what works best for you. And I just want to invite you to experiment, okay? And I think that's really, one other thing that I would say is when you eliminate judgment, when you stop judging yourself for the experiment, when you allow yourself to be in a state of play as you move through discovery with your relationship to alcohol, it's a lot more fun, right? When you aren't judging yourself for having a sip of wine, when you aren't judging yourself for having one too many, when you decide to have a Caesar at brunch, 3 months from now, but I said I wasn't gonna stop. Try to witness yourself through the experiment rather than judge yourself. And witnessing is very different, right? Witnessing is just seeing. I see that you said you had a drink when you said you weren't going to have a drink. And then get curious from that place. Okay, what triggered me? How do I feel about it now? Did I enjoy the drink? How did I feel for the rest of the day? Was I energized? Was I tired? Oh, actually, I really enjoyed it. And it was really fun in the moment. But then I felt tired late. Just get curious. Collect all the data you can without judging yourself and allow the experiment to unfold on its own. Yes, you are in the driver's seat. Yes, it is your responsibility. Yes, you have all the power in the world, but judging yourself every single step of the way will not get you further, okay? I love you. Sometimes having these vulnerable conversations is hard and weird, but honestly, I think that knowing that there is possibility for change knowing that you can get curious about something without being 100% committed for life to something is really freeing. So I hope that today's conversation gave you a little bit of insight into what you can do to support yourself, or how it might feel good for you to get a little bit curious about maybe not even your relationship with alcohol, but with anything else in your life. Social media, exercise, your friend group, anything, right? Because every single relationship in our life plays into who we are, and that then impacts the brand, which is you. So I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in to the podcast this week. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you ever have anything to say in response to these conversations, these one-sided conversations, shoot us an email, team@robynsavage.com. And I would love to hear your thoughts and your experience and your perspective. Okay? If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, do that and follow along on the podcast. I love you so much. The brand is you. Take care of you. Share your work in this world. And I love you. I'll see you next week.